Hello, we are in an extremely striking toilet that is made entirely of laminate. That's something I've never seen in my life. I'm guessing you haven't either. And what's even more interesting is the environment we're in. I don't think you'd expect it. It looks like a very ultra-modern, contemporary place. But we'll see that it's not. We're in Litomyšl, which is known not only among architects as an obviously important historical city which is on the UNESCO list, but above all a city where a lot of very good contemporary buildings and public spaces have been built over the last 25 years. We are concentrating today on one large-scale project called the redevelopment of Castle Hill. That is, we have come to the castle, which is an important tourist attraction, but we're not going to focus on the castle. We're going to look at all the buildings that surround it. You'll see that some of them are really radically altered from what they looked like before. We are at the site of the historic entrance to the Castle Hill, and here the public space has been modified according to the architect Josef Pleskot. I think the modifications are great. Very good materials, no height differences, just a generous area that ties it all together. You're entering an important place, mind you. It really has great standard, like that beautiful tablecloth you serve a good meal on. There's a historic school building behind us, which is now a regional museum. It had its entrance logically located on the axis under the tower. Today, the main entrance is located elsewhere, in a very inconspicuous annex like this, which hides behind the perimeter wall of the former courtyard. But then if you look from other parts, you'll see that somewhere it is a little more prominent, and when you go inside, you find that it's a really large, generous space. On a normal exhibition floor of a regional museum, in a very dignified environment with a beautiful floor, but also with extremely interesting exhibits, such as a working model of the Krizik arc lamp or the oldest photographic camera in the Czech Republic. We're in a church whose restoration is part of the Castle Hill, but it is the part that the general public has embraced with the greatest appreciation. And no wonder, for indeed inside it was a ruin 30 years ago. And now it's restored. It's not just serving as a church, it has a whole range of other functions. And because of that, a whole series of interventions had to be made here. We find a new floor which records important years in the history of the whole church. We find here a really unique entrance to the crypt and a new staircase that allows you to get upstairs and that connects two spaces which could otherwise not be connected. And a distinctive artistic intervention. On the gallery of the church we find an exhibition space, and the individual pieces here are unassembled in such wooden furniture that gives it an impeccable look. Perhaps the most radical intervention in the restoration of the church is this footbridge, which allows you to enter from one part to another in a way that was never possible. And what you see at the end, I think, shows that it has its justification. That individual wooden paneling that serves to highlight the artwork reaches its peak in this space where it suddenly forms this kind of cozy little room where those individual things stand out because it makes them a worthy backdrop. And after the monochromatic grey experience of the whole church, it's suddenly a terribly interesting change. We're in the Monastery Gardens, the result of a renovation following an architectural competition. And we're only a few meters from Castle Hill, and if you make a trip to Litomyšl, don't miss this place. We're at the entrance to the castle grounds, and really the area here is so complete with the new paving. And behind me you can see the former brewery, which has been adapted by Josef Pleskot for a number of different functions, which you'll see in a moment. We're on the site of the former brewery, which most visitors know as the birthplace of the composer Bedřich Smetana. More interestingly for us, however, it has been renovated by Josef Pleskot and contains a range of functions from an information center to individual halls that serve meetings, exhibitions, some of them concerts, but there is also quite an extensive hotel and hostel area where we are currently located. The latest development in the renovation of the whole Castle Hill is this extension of the former Piarist College, Library and Ceremonial Hall. And when I first saw the visuals of it, I was quite apprehensive about it, but the realization has convinced me that it is very good. Inside the university library. It's this two-story space, all glass and open to the outside, so you can see that we're really in a historic area, and suddenly this contemporary thing comes in. And that's, I think, most typical here, that they're really not afraid of that. We're in a sophisticated space of a ceremonial hall, concrete, wood, a simple utilitarian space that's beautifully connected to the exterior, and that's it. And it's again a modern addition in the space below the library that has joined the Piarist College. We're only a few yards from the castle, and you've already seen a number of contemporary interventions in this UNESCO listed area. And now I'm sitting here on material that you wouldn't think could be associated with a historic place like this. You've seen toilets so far that are made of laminate, but you're about to find out that this material is used here in a far greater way. You'll see how. We're in the setting of Castle Park, where the HSH studio has restored a stream in this way. And they've put in the same material again, laminate in yellow color. And I know that when it was implemented, a lot of people were very much against it and said these things shouldn't be here at all. And I was partly one of them, but I have to say that years later it turns out that it works quite well here and that it can age quite well. We're in what used to be a carriage house, and now there's a cafe and there's laminate furniture embedded in it. So what you saw outside, you can see here inside. And it's a really unusual combination of old and new. I think the slight problem is that if you wanted to arrange it any other way, you couldn't. It's just this variant, there's no other variant, but it's a remarkable contrast. We're in a co-working space above the cafe in the former carriage house, and there's a similar principle permeating. There's a lot of laminate on both sides. It's covering the cupboards on one side and the radiators on the other, but you can't see that now because they're hidden behind this incredible curtain. And in a space where you have very little opportunity to reach anything, putting a bold element in here and using it for the whole area is one way to make it quite interesting. At the end of our time on the Castle Hill, and specifically in the part we've called for ourselves the Laminate Kingdom, we are in the former riding hall, which is now a multi-purpose venue for up to 500 people, where a whole range of events can take place, and that multi-purpose nature is reflected in what you see behind me. There are two large pieces of laminate, one of which contains all the technical facilities, the toilets, and the other can move around like this and change both the size and the acoustics. I'm sure a number of you are wondering how it is that such a huge amount of things have happened here, investment things that have cost money. There are a lot of reasons, but the main ones I think are a very active mayor after 1990 who contributed to Litomyšl's inscription on the UNESCO list. A meeting of presidents was held here. Important festivals are organized here, so it's really a cultural metropolis. It is also a political continuity. Even the other mayors who came after him sometimes meet and talk together, and these projects build on each other because they realized you can't do anything in one election period. But if you keep the projects going, you can create something very good. Officials who have also been here for a long time, and they also guarantee a certain continuity. The city architect, who has been here for a very long time and I think has had a big influence on the way the place looks. And probably the most important thing is the preparation of projects in advance, even though they may not be implemented. That's something that a lot of councils refuse to put money into when they say, why would we pay for a project like this if it's never going to happen? But it's the easiest way to get the money afterwards from some grant program, because when it's announced, you're ready. If you get 1 out of 10, I think it still makes a lot of sense economically. Some projects maybe not be finished, but for most there is money and they get done. When you look at the public amenities that have taken place here for a city of just over 10,000 people, it's absolutely fascinating.